Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Literacy Center of Expertise podcast, brought to you by the Immigrant Education Society in Calgary, Alberta, and graciously funded by Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. Today, we will be joined by Fiona Lowes, who is a learning support specialist in the Language Training and Childcare Department at CIWA, which is the Calgary Immigrant Women's Association, of course, located here in Calgary. Fiona will discuss with us how she can support learners and their instructors with addressing their learning challenges. Before we begin, I'd just like to introduce my co-host, Donna Clark. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Jeremy.
And Donna, would you be able to introduce our guest?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So, yes, as you said, Jeremy, Fiona is the learning support specialist at the Calgary Immigrant Women's Association, CIWA. She supports struggling English language learners enrolled in LINC and ESL programs, both at CIWA and in the Calgary area. She provides learning strategies to students, teaching strategies to teachers, and will refer students to CIWA and external services should they need additional support. On a personal level, she enjoys working with a wide variety of abilities and loves the diversity of her job. She moved to Calgary from London, England in 2014. Before transitioning to the world of adult ESL, Fiona was an elementary school teacher for 10 years. She holds a BA in Spanish, a postgraduate certificate in education, and a master's certificate in languages and diversity. She loves spending time in the great outdoors, dabbling in art, and walking her Cardigan Corgi called Betty. Welcome, Fiona.
Hi, thank you, Donna. That was a great introduction. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a real treat to be here this afternoon with you both.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us today, Fiona. I just wanted to jump right in, and there's a question I think is really, really important given your background. Could you just tell us, what are some skills that you found transferable from your experience working with primary school children?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I worked for 10 years as a school teacher and mainly taught the lower grades. So that would be the equivalent of like grades 1 to 3. And I think working with young children, often kids who had special needs, gave me an appreciation of the importance of making the learning really fun and accessible. And there are plenty of transferable skills from my role as the primary school teacher to learning support specialist in the adult education world. If you think about it, many of my clients have had limited to no schooling. They might be starting off from that very beginning point, which is a similar starting point to those early elementary school years. And so they're learning the ABC, developing that sound print awareness, phonemic awareness, basic numeracy skills, and so on. A lot of what I taught and how I taught, I have just transferred over to my current position. Yeah, so there's plenty of things and that transfer over, and I think if I could go on a tiny bit, that my approach is to present any new material in a really structured, step-by-step way, with that pace, repetition being really important, because this is true at any age. If you present too much information, it tends to go in one ear and out the other. And so I just try and break everything down into very small pieces and just present one piece of learning at a time. Yeah.
Really important steps for our learners. But I know who our learners are, and I think I know who your learners are, Fiona. But could you go into a little bit of detail of who are the clients that you see, who are referred to you, and what sort of services and support do you provide them with?
Yes, certainly. So as I've mentioned before, many of my clients are literacy learners. They come generally, most of them are CLB 1 to 4. Some clients are pre-benchmark, such as those that I might work with in our program called Pebbles in the Sand, or in the LINC special needs class that we have at CIWA. And basically, I work with learners who are struggling to make progress, and this can be for a variety of reasons. Their teacher will identify those who need support once the school semester has got underway. Then they give me a call for assistance, and I provide them with language support in any of the 4 skill areas. Oftentimes, I try and help clients with time management, organizational skills. And although most of my clients do come from my home hub, which is CIWA, our language programs and also our employment programs, and those serve exclusively women, I can also work with men. As long as they're permanent residents and enrolled in a LINC or an ESL program, I can support them. So I'll work with clients at agencies such as CCIS, Centre for Newcomers, Gap Year Language Centre, Bow Valley College, to name a few. And it's really fun. It's nice having that mix of working with clients here and then also being able to go and get a little sense of what it's like at some of the other language schools in town and working with big range of teachers and students.
Fiona, you did mention, I know you mentioned time management and organizational skills. What are some common gaps or other needs that you've seen among the clients you work with?
Yes, so time management is a big one. And I find, because in our Western world, we put a lot of importance on time, deadlines, and each minute counts. I think I just sort of think that in some other cultures, there's a little bit more of a relaxed approach to time. And so this is something that teachers will often ask me. They'll say, could you help so-and-so get on top of their organizational skills? And it can be a good teaching point. So we might chat, for instance, about setting an alarm to come to class on time, getting everything ready so that there are all resources ready to learn, keeping a diary, very simple diary to just check for deadlines for field trips and so forth. And although mainly I'm working on language skills and the needs that relate to reading, writing, speaking and listening, I'll focus a lot on building up a basic vocabulary and practicing articulation exercises. Being British, I have to actually change my own accent when I'm doing this so that they don't all come out of my session saying tomato and banana and bath. So I have to sort of morph my pronunciation and help clients get their heads and mouths around our Canadian sound system. And yes, I'm supporting the clients with language needs, time management, but in a one-to-one setting, it's nice and quite relaxed, and I think the clients feel comfortable talking about their concerns quite often. And so when they start doing that, I just think, well, I'm not trained. I'm not specifically trained for counselling, for example, but we have tons of experts at CIWA, lots of other areas that we can help them with. So this is when I can refer out. If they say, I'm struggling with this or that, and it's not to do with their learning, then I can certainly refer them on to people who can. We've got good support here.
Nice. Awesome. So what I'm kind of curious about is what does a typical session with a client look like? And I suppose they're not all typical, but like timing and how many times can you see them and when do you meet with the teacher and like sort of the logistics of it I'm interested in.
Yeah, and that's a good question, and it varies a little bit depending on the learner. So the kind of the way that it's set up is that typical session would last up to 60 minutes. And if they are pre-benchmark clients, it'll usually be around 30 minutes. Because I think working one-to-one can be super intensive for the clients. And I notice they can get, if they're pre-benchmark, especially, they can get very tired. So what happens is in our first meeting, I'll do some initial assessments, and this is when I might ask the teacher if I can pop into their classroom, observe the learner in class, build up a bit of a learning profile, and also I'll do one-on-one assessments too. Then from this and the notes that I've got from the teacher, which they'll write on the referral form, I'll come up with a bit of a plan, and I get 6 sessions to work with the client. So not a huge amount of time, but enough really to pinpoint their language needs and give them strategies to develop their skills. And I'll break a session up into focused activities. For example, if the client needs to develop their phonemic awareness and their reading skills, we'll read a story, we'll share a story, something that's high interest, relevant to them, and then we'll study some words from the story, maybe some short CVC words. We might do word family activities, count some syllables. Then we'll read the story again. So trying to kind of do a whole approach. We'll write sentences, we'll discuss the text. So really, I'm trying to pack as much as I can into a session because I know that my time is limited. And I know that the clients, they see this as like their special time with somebody, their special time to have one-to-one. And so I don't want to shortchange them. And then if they're up to speed with email and if confident using it, I will then send them some extra material, maybe some website links, some a little bit of homework for them to do, or just a storybook they can enjoy at home. That's really a typical session with me.
Nice. And could you just elaborate a tiny bit on, you mentioned you do assessments with the students. Are these formal? Do you use an existing system, or is it an informal sort of situation?
Yeah, so it's an informal type of assessment. It's quite hard with our ESL group to do formal. I find that it's better to keep it just something a bit sort of lighter and more relaxed. But I do have various tests. For example, the BATT, the BAT tests, I'll use with them just to see where they're at with sound symbol awareness. I'll also watch, I might, for example, ask them to write out their ABC. I just want to see how they form their letters. That can certainly be interesting to just see how their fine motor skills are, like how they're holding a pencil. I could give them some short CVC words, maybe some longer words, sight words. So I just mix it up. I tend to, once I've done an observation, then I think, okay, this is kind of what I'm curious to see if they can do, and I'll do assessments from that.
Okay, got it. Yeah. It's a no pressure situation. It's really important when you're interacting with those students.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
So my next question is, what are some examples of activities or interventions that you use?
Well, I think activity-wise, I do lots of phonics. I love phonics, and some might find it dull, but I love it. And so I will happily, sort of chatter away, trying to, some of those choral exercises, parrot fashion. But really, I know that saying the words really helps. Saying and hearing yourself, and then practicing helps us set it in the client's mind that this is how we produce the sound. This is what it looks like in writing. So I will, with phonics activities, it might be matching picture cards with sound for those who are pre-benchmark or lower CLB. Lots of oral work, lots of looking at letters in print, then saying the letters, vowel sounds, sight words, rhyming word games. I like sort of trying to take out a letter. Can they see, what's missing? What's the missing vowel? I think all my clients are always scratching their heads saying, oh, English vowel sounds are so difficult and real challenge for them. Then when we're having an in-person session, I like to give students a few new words, and this was a trick that actually was shown to me by some of my colleagues, some of the Pebbles teachers, and I thought it was wonderful. They use those metal book rings, and then they will put those index cards. They'll give this client maybe 5 index cards. So that's what I do, and I'll put a word on each during the week. So perhaps 5 words to learn each week with a little picture. And then they just get to put it on their book rings, and you just build that up, and it's something that you can use in a session and they can take it home. So just a nice handy resource. I find with COVID, it's been so hard because I love that hands-on approach, and I think most of us learn best from that kinesthetic, like actually physically moving things around, picking up letter blocks, moving them around, whatever it may be. But I do sometimes do things with Realia, so on screen. Maybe I'll present objects. I'll sort of have them on screen and I'll show them, and then I'll take an object away. I think it's got a name. Is it Kim's game or something like that? Anyway, they have to try and remember. You say the words, the names of the object, you take one away, and then they have to guess it. So that sort of hide an object game.
That has a name. Sorry to interrupt. I do that. I got to find out the name of that.
I think it's called, is it Kim's Game or something? And
I believe it is, yeah.
There you go. Jeremy knows. I'm also, and this was really from my school teaching experience. We focused a lot on handwriting back in England, and we used to have a sort of dedicated handwriting sessions. And I noticed that a lot of my literacy students especially have this weak pencil grip, and they haven't built up that strength in writing. So we might do a bunch of hand strengthening exercises to develop those fine motor skills, develop that pencil grip. So I'm always kind of just seeing, how are the basics there, and what can we do?
Fiona, those are some great activities. I'm actually really intrigued by the hand strengthening exercises, because I know that now, since we've transitioned to online teaching and now hybrid, writing has been a big challenge, especially when you have learners online. So I would definitely want to pick your brain later about that. Just after you spoke about how you can help the clients, what are some kind of supports that you might provide to an instructor?
Yes, with the instructors, I tend to feed back to them everything that I found in either via email or teachers are so busy, so it can be difficult to find a time to chat. But ideally, we would have a little meeting, a short meeting, and what I do is I put all my findings in a learner report, and I'll send this to the teacher, and then it usually has tips and strategies, maybe some links to resources that could be helpful to use with the learner. That's really how we'll do it. And then at the very beginning, there's meetings. They sort of at the beginning, and then at the end. And it's not as though it's like sort of that's it. I'm done. I'm never going to, see that student again or talk to the teacher. It's very open, and if a teacher needs to talk to me in the future and say, what would you suggest, or this student's still struggling, or if they need more sessions in the future, then that's always an option.
Okay. And if you could just briefly outline, what is the process for referring students to work with you?
What the teacher needs to do is I think they need a little bit of time usually to, start of the semester to figure out who's who in their class, identify those who they think are struggling. And then once they've done that, once they've got a real sense of, so-and-so definitely needs some support with X, Y, or Z, then I have a referral form. It will soon be in a new, shiny, updated version. And I send that to the teacher via email. And it's just got very simple, straightforward questions. So I get a sense of what's needed. For example, the basics of when the learner's going to class. Usually my sessions are during the class time. And then, so yes, when they go to class, and then I'll, what's needed is given to me as well by the teacher. And then we'll set up some dates. We'll put some dates in the diary of when I can come and start working with the client. Obviously, it's really important as well that the learner's on board, that they know about this process before it starts, so it doesn't suddenly come as a shock to them, and they don't feel that they'd be singled out, that they think, I know about Fiona, and this is going to be a little extra something extra special for me. And that's kind of key as well, that communication from the teacher to the student before I get started.
Well, that's fantastic. I think this is such a great support that, is available to teachers and to students to be able to work with you. Because I think as teachers, we've all had, students who, for whatever reasons, we felt we haven't been able to help as well as we'd like to, either a lack of time or a lack of information or a lack of resources. So I think that the work you do is just fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, really important here in Calgary, for all our literacy students. I'm so happy. You're going to be really busy after this podcast.
Fantastic. I know they really need to do a few clones, actually. There's just me right now. And in addition, there's lots of wonderful tutors, but I think that this would be fantastic if there were a few more learning support specialists at other, immigrant serving agencies. I think there is definitely the need out there.
Absolutely. Well, the last question that we'd like to ask you today is one that I think a lot of people find really interesting. I know we definitely do, thinking of our own paths that brought us to these jobs and who we work with and why we do what we do. So we just like to ask you, Fiona, why do you do what you do?
Well, I do what I do because I've always felt happiest when I'm helping people. When I sort of, I think we're all sort of different personalities, but I know that for myself, if I feel like, I'm doing something that's really helpful and it feels worthwhile, then that really makes me feel like, this is worth doing. And that's what my job's all about. It's all about support, and that's kind of my niche. So I love working with literacy learners. Their needs are just really unique and complex sometimes, but they're so grateful for the help, and they're really enthusiastic learners. So that's really wonderful, and it's exciting to see an adult who perhaps hasn't had a chance to go to school, and they're learning to write their name for the first time, or they're learning about numbers, and it's great to see. So it also, I'm interested and curious about other people. And this is a super aspect of my job, that it allows me to meet people from all over the world who speak lots of different languages and come from different cultures. And I find that really fascinating. And so it's a real joy. I think it's a fantastic role. And I also work with a wonderful organization with such interesting professionals. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I know. I think that we're the luckiest group of ESL teachers that exist,
Yes.
but let's keep that a secret so our jobs aren't in jeopardy.
I know. There's like gold dust. We've got to hang on to them. Yeah.
Fiona, do you have some contact info for people who'd like to get a hold of you, or the CIWA website where we can get some more information about the services you and your organization offer?
For sure, yeah. So our website, you can find us on www.ciwa, middle-online.com. And then under there, you'll see programs. And if you click on the language programs, you'll find my service. So that's an option for teachers, but much more direct and probably a lot easier to just send me an email, first name Fiona, and then an L for Lowes, at ciwa-online.com. Or you can call me 403-263-4414, and my extension is 152. So yeah, I would please send me an email, give me a call if anyone's got any questions out there or they want to refer clients. Feel free.
Okay, and that's Fiona, Fiona?
Yes, Fiona, and then an L for Lowes after that. Fiona L at CIWA middle-online. CIWA middle-online.com. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Fiona, thank you again so much for coming and talking to us. We really appreciate it and are so happy to spread the word about the excellent service that you offer.
Oh, thank you very much to both of you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yes, it's just great to spread the word so that we all know what things are out there for our clients. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Fiona. Well, that concludes another episode of the Literacy Center of Expertise podcast. Thank you again to our guest Fiona Lowes for joining us, and to all of you out there for listening. Until next time.